question for today. Should you weigh yourself every day? There are pros and cons to this, but let me explain a little bit about how your weight can fluctuate. So if any of you ever wrestled or boxed or pay attention to MMA at all, you'll see these people manipulate their weight 10 to 20 pounds in a single day by manipulating their water weight, right? Massively dehydrating themselves, doing a lot of sweat equity cardio, right? So they can lose weight and manipulate the scale. So what that means is, and it's a little different for everybody, but you're going to store a certain amount of water within your cells, within your muscles, within your organs, etc., that you can manipulate. And that can be really psychologically confusing and manipulating for a lot of people. It can lead some frustrating outcomes. So what I suggest is, if you are trying to, manage your weight up or down in some way, if you do want to weigh every day, then you need to take the average of that weight over 7 days so you can get a consistent feel for what is actually happening with your weight. So I do think that can be a good tool. And the downside of only weighing yourself once is if you weigh yourself on a day where you're storing more water weight, it may give you a false sense of progress or lack of progress. And it doesn't really mean that. So you could be in a caloric restriction and doing great and down like 3 pounds. And because of that, maybe you're eating foods that are a little saltier, that are a little more filling because you're not eating as much. And all of a sudden, you step on the scale the next day and you're up 5 pounds. And it's purely water manipulation because there are 3,500 calories in a pound. So the idea that you ate that many calories in one day and genuinely gained 5 pounds is just maybe not technically impossible, but not likely. You'd have to eat, like 5 full pizzas in order to do that. So people get really psychologically manipulated by what's happening with that. And I think it can either depress you or make you think you're not making progress and really afflict you psychologically in a really unhealthy way. So you really need to understand what's happening with your body when you're weighing it and how easily that can be manipulated. And I typically suggest, if you are only going to weigh once, to do it on a Wednesday, because that's kind of the most common day. Like, you're in the middle of the week, you've been kind of doing your normal stuff, so your body's more likely to be well regulated and more consistent. But it is actually more effective to weigh yourself more often and take the averages. You're going to get better results that way. So that would be my suggestion, and just understand how easily these things can be manipulated, and make sure that, mentally, intellectually, you understand that, and you understand there's going to be fluctuations, and you've got to follow the trends and pay attention to it on a longer timeline, and not, freak out over the day-to-day fluctuations. And I've seen that lead people to make worse decisions and to get frustrated and not think it's working. And I've even had this exact same conversation with people many, many times, and they still don't get it. Or even if they get it psychologically, they can't get over it. They can't, kind of be objective about what's going on. And it leads them to be more frustrated and not make results, and not be as consistent and do it for as long as they need to get what they're looking for. So really, really think about how easily all of that can be manipulated. Be honest with yourself and be objective and track things over a longer trend. And if you go out to dinner, and even if you track your calories and you're well under the calories and you wake up the next day and you gain weight, every restaurant is going to have more sodium in it, and you're just likely to store more water. So you really need to get ahead of that mentally, so you know to expect that. And even if you're really, really good and you eat out, but you eat salads and you eat lean meats and vegetables and stuff, you're still, just because of the salt content on the food that's abnormal, you're still likely to retain some water the next day. So maybe when you do that, even if you ate really well and you're in your calories, just don't weigh the next day, because it's going to happen. You're going to put on some water weight. It's totally normal. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything bad. That's just how the body fluctuates sometimes. So back to the original question, should you weigh yourself every day? Yes, if you understand how this process works, and you will take the average, so add up all the days, divide by 7, and that's your average. And if not, Don't weigh yourself on days after you know you've either eaten out or had a lot of sodium or had a lot of travel. You know, being on the air on an airplane can cause you to retain water too. You know, so just think through a little bit more about what makes the most sense for you. If you weigh yourself 3 times a week, do the same thing with the averages. Don't take each weight as, you know, the absolute, because you're going to have those fluctuations.